So before we go any further, we need to address the most wrong, just stupidest thing that happened over the course of these two episodes. Now, it was last week in the episode preview of all things, and that was when they made a joke about Kyo joining the world of Mahjong. Trust me, people, the world of Mahjong is where the true crazy insanity happens in the world of competitive games. Like, if you ever see a table of grannies playing Mahjong, do not interrupt them. They will fucking knife you. That is not as much of a joke as I'd like it to be. Anyways, so this week I got two episodes to cover, and just getting right into it. As many of you know, I've had a lot of problems with this arc. I've had a lot of issues with the way everything in regards to the Psyqualia zombies and Ibuki, and just all the actual plot stuff has been handled. I thought was not done right. Fortunately, these two episodes have actually tried to fix some things. Yeah, this doesn't fix all the problems, and it does not rectify or change my opinion of what's come before it, but no, there was some real effort to kind of really fix some things and actually set some stuff up, and I quite appreciated it. So let's start right at the beginning with last week's Ibuki versus Kai fight. This I liked. This fight actually did a lot for Ibuki, and not necessarily the big over-the-top dramatic sense. The problem with Ibuki is that he's just kind of one part of a bigger story. Now, he's obviously a big part, but ultimately he doesn't really feel that huge in anything. So they actually kind of do a clever way of giving him some depth without actually having to go and waste a lot of time on it, and that is his backstory is simply that the competitiveness of Vanguard just got to him. And you know what? As a competitive card game player who literally flew down the country to go play a competitive card game, I could see how that can get to people. I know a lot of people who have given up Yu-Gi-Oh! And Vanguard because they just can't take how intense it actually does get. That is a real thing card game players go through. And look at Ibuki's design. When he was a little kid, he was actually, compared to Kai and Miwa, pretty meek looking, like just a sort of little scrawny kid, like barely even has eyes in most of his shots. I could definitely see this sort of lighthearted kid who mostly just liked Vanguard because it was fun, and as he got stronger and got more into the world of competitive play, basically just kind of developed a hatred for just what competitive is. That is a real thing, and I'd be lying if I said I don't feel that sometimes. That, I think, is a very nice, subtle little backstory to give him, and I think it gives him some depth, especially when you just see what being in Vanguard has done for everybody. There's freaking zombies running around. And it also kind of makes sense that the deleters were then able to sway him. Like, he probably already was in kind of an angry state, wasn't feeling quite right. They showed up, let him take his anger out on what he blamed everything on, and that being Vanguard. Yeah, I could totally see something like that happening. I mean, not really, because aliens that make you play card games don't exist, or so the government tells us. But no, that was a nice little bit, and even when you see when he beats Kai, and just the thoughts in his head, like the memories of him and Kai and Miwa, and how that kind of screws with him, I think that's a nice little way of saying the deleters are influencing him, and it's starting to catch up with him, and just he's starting to question things. That was actually pretty damn good. But by far, the person who steals the show for that whole episode, and I can't believe I'm saying this, is actually Kamui. That Kamui scene where he explodes and runs down and has to be stopped, that's actually pretty damn good. The emotion is what ran the scene, and that is Kamui's scared. Remember, in this version, the main four characters are sort of a bit closer than they were, I'd argue. And so for Kamui, to see what this has done to Kyo, and to see this could happen to someone else who, A, he likes better, and also, B, someone whose whole life is Vanguard. To see that he could lose all that is a genuinely scary thought, and he wants to stop it. It's a really good scene. And also, Kyo has a really good scene during the whole thing as well. The way he's kind of scared to death of the deleters, how it really seems to hurt him, is actually quite nice. The other thing they do that I really liked, when, Ibuki wins, and first up, I have a theory. This is my theory as to how Ibuki is really making you lose your will to play Vanguard. And my belief is that his boss monster is actually from the delete pack. Yes, I contend he opened 4 delete packs, and like he's just making you rage quit because you don't want to pay all that money for high rarity. Someone prove me wrong. I bet you can't. Anyways, so when Kai loses, and the way he reacts to losing his connection to Vanguard is what I wanted out of the Tetsu thing. Like, you see him and he's hurt, and his deck goes everywhere, and he's like in agony. Like, the thing is that the delete concept should be scary. The idea that something goes into your head and just takes things out of it from you is a scary idea. And as an animation, you have a responsibility to show us that, and they did. And that scene with Kai is not over the top. It's not nothing, but you feel that sort of pain. You feel what he's going through. It's quite a good bit. You could also make the argument that since his connection to Vanguard is stronger than the average person, it hurts more when he loses it, but I choose to believe that is an attempt to make the scene really hit home harder. So then we move on to this week's episode, and I also quite like this. My only gripes were the 2 attempts at comedy relief I didn't quite like. The one was the Rekka scene with Ren and Tetsu. I just thought that was a little unnecessary. I feel like now is not the time for comedy relief when you kind of need to keep everybody on board when interest is sort of wavering in your main plot. And also the scene with Kyo and him and everyone else, I thought maybe some of the visuals could have been a little bit better. And that being that I like the scene that Kyo's like, it's okay, he just takes your love of Vanguard away. And Miwa kind of makes his face like, that doesn't make it okay. Like, the idea that someone goes into your head and like changes shit, like, that's scary. That's what I got from Miwa's look. Kyo's face was just kind of a little weird, but I do like they addressed the idea that, well, I mean, your life can move on, but it's like, the problem is that it shouldn't be you are forced to lose that. That's what I think is sort of the point. And then we get the other scene I quite liked, which was Kamui, when he's going to run with Kai to go save Aichi, Kyo's like, wait, show me about Vanguard. That idea that Kyo is overcoming and making that choice to be better. That's a little bit I quite liked. Then we move on to the main focus of this week's episode, and ultimately it's just getting everybody into the place for the final fight. Shaggy and Scooby got escorted into the building, so they're now in the same place. I will say this much, though. I quite liked them teaming up with Suiko to get into the building. I don't know why. That was really entertaining. First up, I love when Suiko comes out and she looks creepy as fuck. It probably doesn't mean anything ultimately, but from their perspective, Naoki and Shingo, it's just kind of like, nothing about this is normal. Nothing about this seems sane. Like, all of this is creepy. I don't know if the bags under her eyes or the darkness under her eyes is supposed to mean anything. It probably doesn't, but I quite thought it was actually funny. And also, like, when she's about to let them go in to see Korin and Misaki, and they just kind of look at her suspicious, and she's like, it's okay, I'm not a Psyqualia zombie. I'm a cold walker who do what Takudo tells me to. And they just look at her like, that doesn't make it okay. We don't know what that means. That I quite liked. Then they go in the room where, okay, we learned this earlier, but I'm saying it in this order because why not? Where we learned that Misaki just kind of sat there for like 2 hours. Like, waited till the end of the night to go there. Like, I choose to believe that Takudo actually got her to stay, not because of her moral conundrum of what to do with Korin. I choose to believe she stayed because Takudo begged because he's lonely, and like she said, you're welcome to raid the fridge, and Misaki just went and took all their leftovers. Like an annoying relative, you didn't really want at the house, but like, no, we got to, their family, and we're supposed to be Catholic, and like, get Catholic guilt, and that. Anyways, so back on to Vanguard. So then I also like that Misaki figured out immediately, no, Aichi's still possessed. I like that bit. And I like their fight. I really do. It's quick and it's to the point, but it's important because, well, I like the idea showing Aichi being under Psyqualia zombie-ness is a threat. I like that it's dangerous. We just saw Misaki be a badass and just wipe the floor with Korin. So then you see her go up against Aichi and is basically just sacked hard. Like in the way only Vanguard can. This is, some of you may be expecting me to not have liked this bit, because if any of you have come from my Yu-Gi-Oh videos, you know that they kind of did a similar thing with the main girl in that show. But the difference between that and this, and why I thought this was actually very effective, is that Misaki has been shown to be one of the strongest characters in the show, both development-wise and as a Vanguard fighter. So to see her lose after having been arguably her most triumphant against Corrin, it actually really is effective. We know the other two aren't super strong, and obviously everyone else is just getting there. So seeing him take Misaki down and be very just vicious about it, like, I made fun of the concept of evil Aichi last week, but in all due reality, the actress seems to be having fun who plays Aichi. I liked the whole fight because of that. Like, Aichi is just kind of brutal against Misaki. Like, this is someone Aichi always seems to go out of his way to be nice to and be friendly with, and for Misaki, Aichi is one of the few people she really thinks she can connect to. She really finds herself being comfortable around. So to basically see him like this and to see him be this way towards her, it really is kind of heartbreaking. And then the way he wins too, just that sack is, like, whenever you avoid a crit, like a Vanguard with an annoying crit effect like Alfred has, you kind of are happy, but then you just take the L anyways. And the way, like, they did the trigger prediction, I thought was pretty clever. All that worked very well, and also we got to learn the only real power Takuto actually has, and that is his ability to use T in order to see what is going on. Other than that, no, like, the whole thing, and then at the end, Misaki is taken over by a bad CGI effect, and even that little bit where she just kind of walks to him, it doesn't look like much, but it does a really good job to show how she's changed, because she's been influenced. Normally, Misaki is strong-willed, has a very aggressive personality, but, and maybe this is me reading into it, when she kind of walks over to him, she's got kind of like this more sort of girly voice. She kind of moves in a weaker manner, sort of showing how far she's fallen so quickly. It's a nice bit. I don't expect it to last long, but I quite liked it. One last thing, and this is probably me definitely reading into things too much. If you notice, the blaster blade Aichi rode in this fight was not his normal one. It's not the one he got from Kai, it's one of his extras. And I can't help but wonder if maybe that's supposed to signify how much he's just not in his right mind now. I don't know if that means anything, or maybe that's just me, but that's what I took away from it. So anyways, yeah, I quite liked what's gone on these past two episodes. I thought they were clever, I thought they were well written, just a nice, good way to sort of get things back on track. Anyways, tell me what you thought of that below. As for the Vanguard question of the week, let's get a little more personal. Do any of you have any experiences where you realized how you could have won in Vanguard after the fact? I had that last night. So last night I went up against Narukami at Locals, and they used their Daytonix Dragon to get that extra Vanguard attack. And honestly, the worst part about it is that they end up just getting a big hand, and even with Ravenhair Dazel's ability, it still can get pretty hard to get over a huge hand. It wasn't until after the fight I realized if I just kept 3 units in my back row, other than Ricky, they really can't do anything about it, and they would have to lose 3 cards, and I would just be able to have a more lethal Ravenhair next turn. Unfortunately, I realized this after I took the L. Tell me if you have any stories like that below in the comments, and as always, click to like, click to subscribe, and join me next week as we wonder how they're going to save my girl. My girl's in trouble. I want to save my girl, but my girl is fiction, not real, and I'm a very sad man.